Gather around, one and all. It is once again time for the next stage of the Starfall tournament. This is a What If series taking place around the events of Sonic Frontiers, where we investigate what would have happened if the End had devised a tournament to set itself free from its cyberspace prison. We've seen a lot of the cast already gone through their trials and tribulations, and today we're going to see a fair few more. Before the festivities begin though, I would like to ask that if you enjoy your time here and want to see more, please leave a like, subscribe and comment on the video so that I know that you're enjoying what's here to come, and to increase the likelihood that other people are able to find it and join in as well. For that same reason, the best thing you can do to support me in this video is to share it around to expand the breadth it reaches. But with that all said and done, let's get straight into this. With the previous fight well concluded, it's quite clear at a glance of the arena that the entire tournament thus far has left a heavy mark upon its surface. A large fissure tears through the sides, numerous parts of concrete are flat out missing, and rubble scatters the floor. The End, therefore, sees fit to redo what has been done, and the audience witness the stone reform itself, moving back into position and setting any fractures. There's a strange, glitchy digital spark as it does so, but not everyone pays much mind to that. And before long, the arena is as good as new. But an arena isn't there just to look good, and so the End announces the next match will be between Espio and Silver. The two immediately glance at one another from across the arena. Silver mutters to himself, "Of course it would be him. Alright then," and heads on to the arena. Meanwhile, Espio closes his eyes and meditates briefly, but Charmy taps him on the shoulder. "Espio, are you gonna be okay? Silver's pretty strong." "I will never back down from a challenge, Charmy. But I trust in my ninja spirit. As long as I follow my principles, I will be able to overcome any foe." But he opens one eye to look at Charmy. "In the event that I do not, look after yourself." "Espio!" Then Espio does a flip and lands on the arena opposite Silver the Hedgehog. The two of them stare at one another for a moment in silence. Then Silver is the first to speak, as he looks sympathetically towards Espio and says, "No hard feelings, right, Espio? I'll do what I must to protect the future of our world." And the ninja responds, "I will not go down so easily." He raises his hand in front of his face, and a gust of wind suddenly spawns from beneath his feet. Petals, seemingly out of nowhere, flow across Silver's face, and when he lowers his hands from in front of his eyes, Espio has vanished. Silver concentrates on the floor of the arena, trying to see if he's able to spot any sign of Espio's movement. But unfortunately for him, no matter how hard he looks, Espio is a trained infiltrator, and he'll be aware of anything that could give him away, and has the skill to make sure it does not. He does end up throwing a kunai from great distance towards Silver, who easily grabs it with his psychokinesis, spinning it around and throwing it back the way it came from. He calls out, "You know that's not gonna work on me! Show yourself, Espio, let's not draw this out." But Espio was using it as a ploy. He throws a couple more from around the same area, getting Silver accustomed to that direction of attack. But then he strafes around to behind Silver and jumps onto his back, wrapping his legs around Silver's, his arms around his shoulders, with the goal of restricting his movements, specifically the movements of his hand. His invisibility fades away as he's on Silver's back. "It's fortunate for me that your quills are not sharp, and ill for you." Silver tries shaking him off, but it's to no effect, as Espio has a solid grasp on him. He looks behind, annoyed, and asks, "So, what's gonna happen now? Neither of us can move our arms." Espio headbutts Silver in the back of the head, striking with his horn, causing Silver to cry out in pain, "Ah! It will be over soon." hold still, and he repeats the motion. Silver takes numerous hits to the back of the head, causing severe pain and making it hard to focus, but nonetheless, he knows that he can't afford to go down in his first fight. The future depends on it. So, he ends up levitating both himself and SBO and flinging them into the invisible barrier around the arena's edge, causing them both to get shocked by its mysterious force, but it's enough for SBO to be forced to let go of Silver as they both collapse towards the ground. But on the way down, Silver manages to catch himself with his psychokinesis, as well as SBO, who, no longer being on his back, he simply flings up as high as he can. SBO calls out as the wind takes the energy out of his lungs, flying up towards the top of the arena. But then he's quickly thrown down as Silver reverses his pull and smashes SBO against the floor. Charmy cries out, SBO! But it doesn't matter. Silver then drags SBO across the floor into the side of the arena once more, definitively knocking him out. He puts his hands on his knees as he tries to recover his breath. That wasn't pleasant for me either. SBO. He looks up to see SBO fade away. Standing up, Silver addresses Charmy sympathetically. Charmy, But Charmy doesn't want to hear any of it. Don't talk to me! You destroyed SBO, and now he's never coming back. Charmy curls into a ball and rocks himself as he cries. Silver looks heartbroken, but he returns towards Sonic. Once he's there, he says, You know, I'm starting to see Knuckles' point. None of this is good. Infinite looks over to Silver. Oh, what's the matter? If you had to hurt your friend, I didn't think you had any of those. Look who's talking, Tinhead. Name calling now. Have you forgotten? In our last bout, it was I which claimed victory, and I was pathetic back then. You seem to have remained the same, but I have improved. No, your time will come. Talk yourself up as much as you can, Infinite, but you're not gonna beat me this time. Elsewhere, Jet's been getting rather bored of this whole thing, or is it that his anxiety's catching up to him? Either way, he yells towards the sky, Oh, just get this over with! You can't keep the Babylon rogues down for long! I need to get going! Stop wasting my time! And so, in response, the end announces that the next match is between Jet the Hawk and Zaz. Jet's bravado immediately leaves his face. What? Him? That psychopath? He looks towards Zaz, who pulls a part of his eye to the side and sticks his tongue out. This is gonna be fun. Wave face palms yet again in this tournament. Way to go, Jet. Now look what you've done. This is fine. This is fine. I'm the legendary Windmaster. He can't defeat me with my extreme gear. Which he immediately hops onto. This time there's no old man to help you. And he flies towards the stage. Zaz takes a while to follow, which is uncharacteristic of him. Jet looks to him, confused. You afraid or something? You should be. But then Zaz looks towards his boss. Can I do it, Tamak? Go. Show them the power of the Zeti. Oh, why? And he starts digging into the ground beneath his feet. No one is really sure what's going on aside from the Zeti, but it's soon quite apparent. As he removes the soil in the manner similar to a dog, a yellow surface is slowly exposed, more and more, until eventually he just reaches in and lifts it up, revealing a giant yellow moon-like face, bigger than his own body, which he carries easily with one hand above his head. He jumps, still holding it, onto the arena, slamming it down, shaking the ground, before hopping on top of it, and then looking at Jet the Hawk. You're not the only one who can fly, boy. Jet's taken aback for a moment, but regains his confidence.
Maybe that thing's fine on the ground, but in the sky, with my extreme gear, I'm the fastest thing alive!
Zaz shakes his head.
I've had enough of talking. I'm gonna mess you up.
And sends his moon towards Jet in a sudden burst of speed, controlling it with his innate power to manipulate robotics. Jet gets a move on himself and starts flying around past the moon mech. They cross one another, eyeing each other down as they do so, before they turn around and head straight towards one another in a head-to-head collision. Zaz is convinced that Jet is committed to this assault and grins as he anticipates the moment they collide. However, the bird had a different plan in mind, and once he's close enough, he jumps off of his extreme gear and kicks Zaz in the face as he flies past him. Zaz falls off the back of his own mech, whilst Jet lands back on his extreme gear. He then turns around once again and swoops low towards the surface of the arena, where Zaz has landed, and goes to kick him in the head. However, Zaz simply jumps right back up into the air, landing on the moon mech. Floating now above Jet the Hawk, he commands the moon mech to shoot strange star-like projectiles from its mouth. They miss Jet and explode on impact with the floor, which alerts him to the power of those projectiles. As Jet soars up higher into the sky, Zaz pursues him, trying to get right behind him so that he can land a direct shot with the star projectile. But Jet is obviously aware of this tactic and keeps swerving around to make him a harder target to hit. Realizing that Zaz really is just trailing him though, he then uses his knowledge of the jet stream to cause a small twister of wind to spawn behind him, and Zaz flies straight into it, spinning him around and throwing him off his moon mech once again as he falls towards the ground. Learning from last time, Jet decides to take advantage of Zaz before he hits the floor and flies beside him, grabbing his giant war fan and spinning it towards the Zeti. This causes the air currents around Zaz to alter, spinning him around on the spot and stopping his descent. He's suspended by the wind long enough for Jet to come up from under him and strike him in the back of the head with his foot as he passes by. Zaz coughs some phlegm out of his mouth in pain as Jet now soars from above him straight down, a small tornado forming behind him, cutting past Zaz, knocking him out of the jet stream against the ground. With a thud, his body hops off the floor and back onto it again. He looks a little bit bruised now as he smashes his fist on the ground.
You're gonna pay for that one.
He looks to his moon mech and puts his fingers to his forehead, and without even being on it, it obeys his command and rushes towards Jet. He wasn't expecting this and manages to swerve out of the way, but Zaz used that as a distraction as he himself jumped off the ground right next to Jet and smashed him, knocking both the bird and his extreme gear to the floor. Zaz stands with his fist balled.
Get back up so I can knock you down again.
Jet grunts and pushes himself up, grabbing now both of his giant fans and crossing them over his arms.
Just try it. Just because I'm on the ground doesn't mean I forgot how to fly.
And he jumps up high into the sky, fans now spread to his side like wings. Then he flutters them towards Zaz, sending torpedoes of air swirling towards him. Zaz raises his arms to guard against the wind, but to his surprise, they still manage to push him somewhat, threatening to slam him against the invisible barrier of the arena. At this point, Xena shoves her heel into the ground with a stomp and calls out,
Zaz, stop playing around and crush him already. You're no fun. Fine. I suppose I would want to keep Zavok waiting.
Zaz then throws a strange purplish projectile at Jet, who deflects it with a current of wind, but he himself rushes up at the same time and grabs one of Jet's hands, crunching down with his superior strength, forcing Jet to release the hold of his fan. And then with his other hand, he grabs Jet by the neck and slams him into the invisible barrier. He's electrocuted whilst held there, and whilst the sparks spread to Zaz as well, he just grits his teeth in a sick smile. Eventually, he lets go as Jet falls unconscious.
That's what you get when you mess with the best.
Zaz skips and hops back towards his fellow Zeti, leaving the fading Jet the Hawk behind him. Wave shudders in sadness, acknowledging that now she is the only remaining Babylon rogue left. Zaz looks to Zavok and seeks some approval, asking if he performed well. Zavok simply responds that his foe was nothing to be proud about. If he had lost, it would have been a disgrace. Back over with Sonic and co, it's obvious that there's only a handful of fighters left to go, and they look towards Cream in anticipation and fear of who she may be up against. The End decides to make the next fight clearer for everybody, announcing that it will be between Charmy and Wave. Charmy has been crying his eyes out for the last few minutes, but he wipes them clean with a determined look on his face as he flies straight onto the arena and calls out,
"Come and get some! The Chaotix may be down, but we're not beaten! I'm gonna bring them back!"
Wave joins the field herself, and seeing that her opponent is rather small. "Sorry, Squirt, but my team's also been captured, and I'm afraid I'm not gonna let you roll over me. At least you'll be seeing your friends soon."
"Oh, that's what you think! I'm trying to show you everything I've learned!"
The two of them square up onto the arena and begin their fight. Charmy is not much of a strategist and simply goes for what he believes to be the most effective option, which is to assault Wave with his Stinger, going in for a direct hit. Wave, however, hops onto her extreme gear and flies away. Charmy keeps up his pursuit of Wave, but he's not fast enough to catch up. Noticing that this seems to be all Charmy has, Wave suddenly stops, catching Charmy off guard as he's about to hurtle past, but using his own momentum against him, Wave brandishes her giant wrench and smacks it into Charmy like a home run. The air is pounded out of his mouth as he's sent hurtling towards the barrier around the arena, slapping into it and frying like on a fly swatter before dropping down unconscious to the arena. Wave flies off of the stage back to where she stood before and gives a sigh of relief. Zavok mumbles to himself, "Well, that was rather disappointing. Thankfully, I won't have to fight someone as pathetic as that." We grow ever nearer to the second wave of fights in the Starfall tournament. With 3 more fights down, that leaves only 2 left for the first round of combat, which we'll see next time in the Starfall tournaments. I hope you've had a good time and enjoyed what this video had to offer. If you did, it would be great if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe to help boost performance, but also to communicate to me which aspects you felt were better and worse so I know where to improve. And if you do want to help me out, please share this video around so that more people can find it and the interest can grow. With all that said, I hope you have a great day and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.